Hello everyone, it's me Uncle Dan. Today I am going to read S6 6046 Magic School Bus, The Search for the Missing Bones. Chapter 1. I'm gonna be a vampire, Ralphie said. I'm gonna be a mermaid, Wanda said. I'm gonna be a bunch of grapes, Arnold said. What about you, DA? It's a secret, I said. I wanna surprise everybody. We're talking about our costumes for Halloween. It was just a few days away, and we could hardly wait to get dressed up. Little did we know that all our plans were about to fly out the window. The adventure began when Miss Frizzle walked in wearing a dress with tiny bones all over it. She was carrying a large orange curtain. Something long, green and scaly was stretched out across the box. Nobody was scared. It was only Liz, the Frizzle's pet lizard. Good morning, class, the Freeze sang out. As you know, it's nearly Halloween. To celebrate, I thought we could have an early Halloween party this afternoon. But we don't have our costumes, Tim said. Not to worry, Tim. I have brought special costumes that'll get us all in the mood, Miss Frizzle said. Plus, these costumes are the perfect fit for our new school science unit. I was curious about the new science unit. Science is one of my best subjects. I always carry a science notebook so I can write down all the facts I learned. I was curious about what was in the box, too. Liz had climbed off, and I could see big black letters across the top. Human's Costume Company, made in USA. Class, we're about to get down to the bare bones, Miss Frizzle announced. She opened the box, reached inside. As you can see, our new unit will be about skeletons. We all called out as she held up the neatest skeleton costume I had ever seen. Right you are, the Fritz said. There were more costumes in the box. Miss Frizzle gave one to each of us. Without our skeletons, it would have been nothing but blobs. This time we learned about what keeps us all in shape. The skeleton costumes were cool. They were full length, with feet and the bones, one just painted on, like the costumes you get in a store. They were made of shiny white vinyl material and were stuck onto the front and back of the black bodysuit with Velcro strips. There were separate gloves with hand bones attached. Miss Frizzle, being Miss Frizzle, had gotten a costume for herself and a special lizard skeleton suit for Liz. We all pulled on the costumes, and soon the room was full of walking, talking, laughing skeletons. Hey, Miss Frizzle, Ralphie said. There's something wrong with your skeleton. You don't have a backbone. Look at you, Ralphie, Phoebe said. You don't have hand bones. We started walking around looking at one another. There were bones missing from every costume. Tim didn't have his lower leg bones. Wanda didn't have foot bones. Keisha didn't have thigh bones. Carlos looked strange without upper arm bones. And Arnold was missing shoulder blades and collarbone. Phoebe's top half looked funny. She didn't seem to have any ribs. And when I looked at my forearms, they weren't there. There was nothing between my elbows and my hands. Miss Frizzle was standing next to a chart of the human skeleton she had just put up. I think Human's Costume Company has some explaining to do. Our costume should all look something like our friend Skinny here. As soon as we finish today's lesson, I think we'll take a little ride to the costume company and find out what happened. We learned some amazing facts about the bones of the human skeleton that afternoon. From the desk of Miss Frizzle, bones are big and small, strong and light. Human skeleton is made of about 206 bones. Some are long, some short, some are flat, some curved, some are large, some tiny. Each one is the right size and shape for the special job that it does. Our bones are hard and strong, but they are not heavy. They are so light that the skeleton is less than 1/5 of a person's total body. Wait, so if you weigh 50 pounds, only about 10 of those pounds are your bones. Then Miss Frizzle grabbed her keys. Okay, everybody, to the bus. We all piled into the magic school bus. The bus had taken us on many wacky adventures, and somehow we knew this trip wouldn't be an ordinary ride. Where is Hugh Man's costume company? Arnold asked. Oh, it's just a quick flight to Skeleton City. Skeleton City? Liz set up front with the freeze and she turned on the ignition. Before we left the school parking lot, the bus had transformed into the Magic School Jet. We were off. Chapter 2. Magic School Jet zoomed through the blue sky. We are all still thinking about Skeleton City when Miss Frizzle switched on the automatic pilot and took out her harmonica. We need a rousing song, she said, about the Ghost of John. Let's sing it as a round. Hit it, the team began, which followed in turn. Have you seen the Ghost of John? Long white bones and the rest all gone. Ooh, wouldn't it be chilly with no skin on? The Magic School Jet landed just as we finished the round, and the jet changed back to a bus. From the parking lot, we took a good look at the costume company. It looked like a spooky old castle. As we followed Miss Frizzle into the main office, something started to howl. Nobody at the factory seemed to notice the freaky howls except for us. Whatever it was, it howled 10 times and then stopped. All the factory employees just kept working. People were rushing around, pushing carts piled high, with cartons or waving papers madly. Phones were buzzing. A skinny man with wild hair burst out of a door marked Hugh D. Mann, President and CEO. Who took this order for 500 Dracula costume, he demanded. We'll never be able to get that many fangs in time. Sorry, sir. The young woman said, I forgot to tell you about the order. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. She hurried off. Mr. Mann jumped when he saw us standing there in our bones. Who are you? He asked. I'm Miss Frizzle, and these are my students, the freeze told him. We have a bone to pick with you. There's something wrong with all our costumes. As you can see, we want new ones with proper number of bones. Hugh Mann looked as if he were about to cry. Oh dear. I guess the workers tried to rush the order out and got a little careless. We've been so busy with Halloween right around the corner, and I'm sorry to say we are completely sold out of our deluxe skeleton costumes. He thought for a minute. I can't spare any workers to fix your costumes right now, but I have an idea. There are a lot of extra bones in the stock rooms. Would you mind searching for the missing bones you yourselves? I'll show you the way. Mr. Mann took us outside and pointed to the barn-like building. That's where you start. Miss Frizzle, stockroom A, he said. Ah, I see you have a bus. Good, you can drive right onto the conveyor belt. It'll take you through all the bone stockrooms. Use this remote to stop and start the belt. Then Mr. Mann reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. Here is a map of the buildings you will be going through. You can stop wherever you like and pick up your missing bones. Miss Frizzle barely got out a thank you before Mr. Mann disappeared into the busy office. A couple of minutes later, we were back in the bus. Miss Frizzle drove onto a wide band of rubber. Like the belts that carry luggage in an airport. She turned off the engine and pushed the go button on the remote. The conveyor belt started with a whir. We were all nervous that the spooky howls would start again. We glided along into a huge room with a large letter A above the door. Miss Frizzle pushed the stop button on the remote. "Class, get ready to begin the great bone search," she said. "We need to hurry to get back for the Halloween party, so let's go." The map says that stockroom A is a place for fit. Now we just have to find a pair that fits Wanda. There were boxes stacked on shelves and on the floor, each one full of bones. "How are we ever going to find the right ones for my costume?" Wanda moaned. "There are so many different sizes." Miss Frizzle gave us a pep talk. As my great-great-great-granduncle Phineas Finder used to say, "With lots of eyes, you'll find the prize." Some of us paired up. Phoebe and I tore into one box, while Ralphie and Carlos attacked another. Liz gave Miss Frizzle a hand. "What if we can't find the right size fit to fit Wanda?" Keisha worried. We need to get back for Mrs. the Frizzle's party," Phoebe said. "Bingo," we heard Tim yell. "I think I found the right pair of fit for Wanda." He bent down and pressed the vinyl foot bones onto the Velcro strips on Wanda's costume. "A perfect fit." "Boy, feet are really bony," said Wanda, looking at the new addition to her costume. "That's the truth," Miss Frizzle said. "Each foot has 26 bones." "I remember that from my report," Wanda said. "Bony feet. Just think, feet have 52 of the 206 bones in your body. That's more than any part of the skeleton except the hands. Foot bones are flatter and longer than hand bone. The shape of the foot helps to keep us from falling forward when we stand. Tibia, fibula, tarsals, the phalanges, metatarsal, talus, ankle bone, Achilles tendon. Take a walk by Wanda. Have you ever noticed how your feet can change shape and bend as you walk? Feet are very flexible because they are made of so many bones. The shape of our feet helps us walk on different kinds of surfaces. Chapter 3. As we were climbing back into the bus, we heard a spooky howl again. "Wee, what was that?" Arnold asked. Whatever it was, it kept howling until it had howled 11 times. We were too scared to move. Then the howls stopped, and everything was silent. We all took our seats in the bus without saying a word. Miss Frizzle checked the map Mr. Mann had given her. "Next is stockroom B," she said. "Leg bones." She pushed the button on the remote that started the conveyor belt moving. Wanda was wiggling her new feet. "The bones are so hard and stiff," she said, "but we can move easily." "How come, Miss Frizzle?" "Good question, Wanda." Miss Frizzle said, "I have a feeling we'll find the answer when we check out these posters." As the bus moved slowly along the conveyor belt, she pulled the lever and several posters rolled out of the dashboard. Our bones can move because of muscles and joints. Muscles give us the power to move, and they give us strength. Muscles are attached to the bones with strange ropes called tendons. The muscles pull on the bones and make them move. Without muscles, our skeletons would go nowhere fast. Joints are places where two bones meet. Some of our joints only move backward and forward. Hinge joint, elbow, the ball and socket joint, shoulder. Some joints can move in any direction. Some joints bend and swivel. The vertebrae, the gliding joint. Some turn side to side and rotate. Pivot joint. Some joints in the wrist move side to side and back and forth. Condyloid joint. The joint at the base of the thumb moves in two directions. The bones are held in place at the joint with stretch the ligaments, which are like tough rubber bands. Saddle joint. From DA's notebook, some people can bend and twist their bodies like a pretzel. They say they are double jointed, but they don't really have extra joint. They can bend easily because their ligaments are extra long and stretch. By now, we had arrived at stockroom B, where the lower leg bones were stored. Miss Frizzle turned off the magic monitor and stopped the conveyor. We got out of the bus and followed her into the dark room. "Okay, class," said the fridge. "You may have heard that the leg bone is connected to the ankle bone. But as you will see, each lower leg is actually made of two bones. And the ankle is really just the bottom end of those bones. Now let's start looking for a pair of lower legs, 2 bones for each leg, that'll fit Tim's costume." We went through one box of bones after another. Some bones were too long and some were too short. We were searching so hard that we almost didn't hear the rustling noise in a dark corner. All of a sudden, a box came crashing to the floor. "What's that?" Ralphie asked. He was pointing toward the noise. We froze. There in the dark corner was a tall skeleton with glowing green bones. It was looking right at us with its enormous eye socket. It's hard to see in this dark room. Then in a blink of an eye, it disappeared. We couldn't move. "You know what that was?" Ralphie said at last. "That was a ghost of John. Long white bones and the rest all gone." I admit the skeleton was a scary sight, but I never let my imagination run away with me. "Don't be silly," I said. "There are no such thing as ghosts." "How do you know, DA?" Wanda asked. "It looked like a ghost to me, a skeleton ghost." Miss Frizzle went over to the box of spilled bones. "If it was a ghost, I think it must be a helpful sort," she said. "These look like the leg bones we've been searching for." She attached the bones to Tim's costume. "Attach." "Neat," said Tim. "Now I've got it all together." "Good," said Arnold. "Now we can get out of here." One bone, 2 bones. The large shin bone in the front of your leg is called the tibia. The thinner bone to the outside is the fibula. For walking and running, you can't have one without the other. Back on the bus, Miss Frizzle checked the map. "Thigh bone's coming up," she said. She pushed the remote button and we moved along the conveyor belt. We were just turning a bend when an eerie glow appeared behind us. We looked out the back window and gasped. There in the dark shadow was the skeleton. The ghost of John was back. "It's following us," Phoebe cried. But the ghost didn't move at all. It just disappeared. Chapter 4. We could hardly wait to get out of the factory. It was really giving us the creeps. "You might know we would end up in a haunted factory at Halloween time," Arnold said. "What did you expect?" said Keisha. "This is a magic school bus trip." Tim was walking up and down the aisle of the bus, stretching his legs and admiring his new tibia and fibula. "These cartoon bones are made of vinyl," Tim said. "But what about our real bones, Miss Frizzle? What are they made of?" "Our bones are made of hard calcium phosphate and tough, stringent collagen," Miss Frizzle answered. "A bone seems solid, but let's see what it's really like inside." The Fritz pushed the button on the dashboard. At once, the bus's windshield became a giant TV monitor. A picture flashed on the screen. This drawing shows the parts of the thigh bone. Miss Frizzle said the thigh bone is also called the femur. Wow, Ralphie exclaimed, there's a lot more to our bones than I thought. And remember that there are blood vessels inside the bones. There are nerves all around them too. The Fritz said, that's why we feel pain when a bone gets a hard blow. Just then, Miss Frizzle stopped the conveyor belt. We were inside stock room. The bones in this building were marked longest. The femur makes two big connections at the knee and at the hip. The knee joint is the largest joint in the body, and the hip joint is the strongest. The knee joint is a hinge joint. The hip joint is a ball and socket joint. The femur is the longest bone in the body, Miss Frizzle told us as we began searching through the boxes. In fact, it makes up 1/4 of a person's height. I did the math. Keisha is about 4 feet tall, so we needed to find thigh bones about 1 foot long. These two look about right, said Arnold. Let's see if they fit Keisha. The knob at the top of each of the femurs fit perfectly into the hip joints of Keisha's costume, and the large knee joint stuck right into place. Which joints wear caps? Your knees. Kneecap is a small flat bone that protects the sensitive knee joint. It is a separate bone connected by tendons to the front of the joint. Hip, hip, hooray. The curved hip bones make a cradle called the pelvis that protects the stomach, intestines, and other soft insides. The shape helps to keep our legs in line with the top half of our body so we can keep our balance. We were so busy connecting Keisha's thigh bones that no one noticed the conveyor belt starting up until it was too late. Hey, stop, called Tim. The bus is heading into the tunnel without us. Someone must have punched the remote. We ran to the conveyor belt. There up ahead in the bus, we could see a strange form in the driver's seat. Those ghostly glowing bones again, and looking out the back window were the frightened eyes of a small lizard. Liz was being kidnapped on the bus. Chapter 5. Quick, everyone, hop onto the conveyor belt, Miss Frizzle called. We need to follow that bus. The belt was moving very fast, but jumping onto it was tricky. Everyone made it after one try except Ralphie. Ralphie jogged along next to the conveyor belt. "I'll never get on," he cried. "Yes, you will," I said. "I will help you. We'll count to 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. He hopped up, and we grabbed his arms. He made it. Now we were all riding along on the conveyor belt. We went through a tunnel marked Stockroom D. "I hope that ghost skeleton knows how to stop this thing," Ralphie said. We all breathed a sigh of relief when the conveyor belt came to a gentle stop inside the building. We could only see the bus at the other end. Miss Frizzle hurried to the bus. We stayed safely back in case the ghost was still there, waiting to spook us. "All clear," the Freeze called out. "Never fear, no ghosts are here." We ran to the bus and checked out the inside. Everything looked normal. Liz popped up from behind the seat. When she saw Miss Frizzle, she jumped into her arms. "Poor Liz," said Phoebe. "I bet she was really scared. I'm glad she's okay." "Let's get to work and find some bones," Miss Frizzle said. "We'll worry about the ghost later." She opened the building map. "This is the backbone stockroom," she announced. "A spine at last is mine." The shelves in stockroom D were stacked with long boxes. "Thank goodness these spines are all put together," Arnold said. "It will take us years to find the right 33 vertebrae for Miss Frizzle." "Here is one that looks good," Tim called. We held it up to Miss Frizzle's back. "All right," Carlos said. "This spine is fine." S is for spine. "Maybe you thought your backbone was perfectly straight up and down. Well, it isn't. From a side view, you can see a long S-shaped curve. The curve helps the spine stay stronger, observes charts when we walk and run, and makes the spine more flexible." From the desk of Miss Frizzle, "Your spine is made of 33 bones. The bones of the spine are called the vertebrae. The bones lock into the skull at the top and the pelvis at the bottom. To support the whole skeleton, count the vertebrae. Neck, 7 vertebrae. Upper back, 12 vertebrae. Lower back, 5. The vertebrae often fuse together into one bone. The coccyx for vertebrae frequently join to one another. Total number of vertebrae, 33. The vertebrae are linked together by gliding joints. Because of these joints, we can arch backward, twist the body around, and bend forward to touch our toes. We pressed the bones onto Miss Frizzle's costume, then got back on the bus. Suddenly, the scary howls started again. This time, there were 12 howls. Then they stopped, just like before. "Hey," Tim said, "there were 12 howls, and my watch says it's 12 o'clock. The howls must be like a spooky cuckoo clock." Wanda said, "That's perfect for a costume factory." Phoebe sat down and let out a sigh of relief. "Phew," she said, "at least we got through this building without running into the ghost of John." "Yeah," Keisha said, "maybe he has chilled out." Miss Frizzle pushed the remote, and we were off to the next bone hunt. Little did we know that John was coming along. The end.